Namaskar. In the last lecture, we talked about epistemology, particularly the Western epistemology, and we saw that the theories of knowledge and perception involve senses, but they do not involve mind. Whereas if you see Jain philosophy, and then particularly the indirect cognitions, the perceptual cognition and articulate cognition, they involve both senses and mind. Question is, what is mind? So we shall talk about mind today and mind related subjects. Jainism, mind is known as no sense organ or sometimes as sixth sense. So no sense organ because it is not an organ, but at the same time mind is involved in the process of cognition. And sometimes you say we normally have five senses, we are aware of that. But the mind is regarded as a sixth sense because it is also working as sense in some way. Though mind also is a means of knowledge, it is regarded as no indriya or no sense because it is dependent on other senses for grasping the external objects. So the mind by itself cannot conceive or perceive external objects. It has to take help of senses. It is a common factor in all indirect cognitions. The object of other senses is fixed, but the mind is not confined to any of the physical qualities. It is capable of apprehending the past and future also, which senses cannot do. Like other senses, mind also is divided into two parts, physical mind, what we call as Dravya Man, and psychical mind, the Bhav Man. The physical mind is material, It's constituted by Mano Vargana. We know what Varganas are, so it is constituted by Mano Vargana. It occupies the whole body according to Svetambara tradition, So somebody asks a question, where is the mind? Then the answer is that it is present all over the body. Svetambara belief is a little different. This part of mind interacts with the brain. So the brain is also important, in the process of cognition because mind and brain are interacting substances. Psychical mind is the power or activity of the soul, resulting into various states of mentation, its soul's capacity to perform mental functions. So psychical mind is a part of soul, but the part of mundane souls, not of pure soul. And it is doing the mental function. This part of mind thinks, imagines, plans, discriminates, stores memory and takes decisions. All these functions are performed by psychical mind. Jaina distinguishes between soul and mind. This is again an important point, In Western philosophy, normally these two terms are confused, People think the soul is mind, or there are other people who say, no, soul and mind are different, and so on. So here in Jaina philosophy, it is very clear that the soul and mind are different. Mind does not possess consciousness, which is the exclusive property of soul. So soul has consciousness, mind has no consciousness. Although mind is functioning, but it is functioning with the conscious power of the soul. Mind, like soul, is not a permanent entity. It exists only when consciousness manifests as thoughts, beliefs, desires, emotions, and feelings. So, when we have these functions taking place, then at that time the mind exists. If these functions stop to exist, or they are not taking place, we have no feeling or no emotions, no desires, no beliefs, no thoughts. Suppose we reach a state like that, then the mind does not exist, it stops existing, stops functioning. So mind is influenced by rising karma in its working. Both soul and psychical mind are spiritual substances. So the psychical mind, although does not have consciousness, but at the same time it is a part of the soul, part of the mundane or the impure soul having karma. So the psychical mind is also a spiritual substance that way. The physical and psychical parts of minds are interlinked. So there is a physical mind made of dravya, manovargana, I told you, and there is a psychical mind which is part of the soul, and these two are interlinked. They communicate continuously with each other. Mind is influenced by the external world, including the body, and it influences the soul. So mind is influenced by the external world through senses, and the mind is also influenced by body. The body conditions influence the state of mind. It establishes a connection between soul and the external world. So this is again an important point. If somebody asks how the soul is connected to the external world, then the answer is it is through mind. Its activities span the entire time scale, past, present, and future. Mind remembers the past, thinks of present, and imagines the future. This is what the mind is doing. Mind is one, but its modes are many, and it can assume a mode as per our wish. Mind is one, whether it's a physical mind or the psychical mind, it is one. But modes are many, it can change modes with time very fast, so that and it can think, very fast. One after another thoughts come to our mind, but they do not occur simultaneously. These thoughts come one after another. The mind has modes, and it is only one, and therefore only one thought can take place at one time. But they take place in such quick succession, so we conceive or we experience as if many thoughts are coming at a time. But that's not the correct thing. The thoughts come one after another. Mind can present a thought in a multitude of perspectives. That's a small introduction about what mind is. Now we will talk something about the instincts, which are related to our mental phenomena in some way, and another property called lesia, which we'll talk about after instincts. Instincts is irrational knowledge. It's an important aspect of our personality, remember, instincts, and more so of the personality of animals. Instincts is irrational knowledge that occurs without the assistance of sense organs and mind. So, without the help of our senses and mind, we have instincts. Our instincts are not very clear many times, or were not very strong, but in animals, the instincts are very strong. It constitutes activity resulting from unlearned habits. We don't learn many of the things, but we still do in our life, particularly in childhood. And The reason for that is instinct. Instincts exist in all kinds of beings, from one sense organisms to human beings, the entire range of life. Some instincts may have a small knowledge component, but they are primarily habit oriented. Instincts become less effective in the life of a rational being, that is a human being, with the development of knowledge. Our behavior is more or less knowledge oriented and not instinct oriented. But we do have instincts, that cannot be denied. There are 10 main instincts. The first one is food instinct. By this instinct, the organism searched for food. You can see all animals, searching for food. It is because they have a food instinct. Food instinct is aroused by hunger. If somebody is feeling hungry, he will search for food, sight of food, or thought of food. Then there is fear or defense instinct. By this instinct, the organism undertakes defensive or offensive actions. Everybody fears, he has a fear that he may be harmed, he may be attacked. And therefore, he undertakes defensive or offensive actions in order to protect himself or herself. Fear instinct is aroused by feeling of insecurity, sight of enemy or predator, or thought of fear. The third is sex instinct. By this instinct, an organism engages in sexual activities. Sex instinct is aroused by metabolic and chemical activity in the body, or reading, viewing, or listening to sex-related material, or thought of sex. Fourth one is possession instinct. By this instinct, the organism is tempted to store items of need or imaginary need. There may sometime be need, or sometime you just imagine that there may be need or there is need, and for that you try to store items. Possession instinct is aroused by scarcity or knowledge of availability and unavailability of goods, or thought of possession. Then there are 4 instincts of which we call as emotions: anger, ego, deceit, and greed. So these instincts are there in almost all beings, all persons, all human beings, all animals, and so on. The 9th one is sensation instinct. By this instinct, some organization can pre-sense events such as earthquakes. We have intuition. Many times, many people have intuition. This is going to happen. And particularly, there are some animals who can pre-sense earthquakes. So this is because they have this kind of instinct. Instinct of popular belief. By this instinct, a person follows the popular beliefs prevalent in the community without questioning. So whatever traditions are present in the community, we also try to do the same way. We don't question why you are doing this or why this is being done. This has come by tradition, in communities. Animals flock together, for example, this is because of this instinct. These instincts are, as I told you, there in every organism, including plants. Plants also have these instincts, You can see the emotions in the plants. You can see the possession instinct in plants. Some plants store water. Some plants, feel happy with the touch of female. They have a sexual instinct. And there is a male and female category in the plants also, or that kind of structure is there. and activity is there in plants. And there are many other things, so we can justify almost all instincts even in plants. In human beings, particularly in the childhood, these instincts are present you can very clearly see, when a child is born, he doesn't have to taught how to feed, The child knows how to feed. The child has fear, at the sight of somebody stranger or some other object, and he cries or she cries because he has fear. And the child feels angry at the things which are not his or her liking, So almost all instincts are present even in the child, A child has a toy and doesn't want to depart with it. He doesn't want to depart, he doesn't want to give it to anybody else, So he has a greed kind of thing, he has a possession instinct and something. So you can see these instincts very clearly in childhood, but as you grow, the knowledge grows and then our behavior becomes more and more knowledge oriented rather than instinct oriented. 3 more instincts are also recognized in Jaina texts. One we call as Dirgkaliki. There is no English translation. This is a sense of keeping the past impressions in memory and reflections on future, So we have memories and we think of future. This sense is found in the beings of heaven and hell and in the womb-born animals. So womb-born, we are womb-born human beings, and all womb-born animals will have this kind of instinct. Hetuvadiki, the sense of acceptance or rejection of an object after proper consideration of its advantages and disadvantages, So we have a clear instinct or a sense what is good for us and what is not good for us, So that instinct, the sense is there right from birth. This sense is found in all mobile beings, So not only in the human beings, other animals also can think of what is good and what is not good for them. Drashtivadiki, the sense of getting knowledge of Drashtivad, the 12th agam. So some people can know by intuition what is written in this agam, and as you know that this agam has been lost. It's not available in the written form. Even then, some people can guess or intuit what is written, maybe a small part of what is written, not the whole agam. So this sense is found in persons with right belief. It is only when our mental attitude has changed, it is when our soul has been purified to such an extent that such a thing can happen. Another concept which is very important in Jainism and is related to our psychology is Leshya. And this is how the psychology in fact has been described in Jain philosophy through Leshya. It's an important concept. Leshya represents psychological behavior of organisms. So our psychology is Leshya dependent. All worldly souls are infected with karma, as we know, and some of the karmas are always rising, that also we know. The rising psychical karma produce vibrations in the soul, and these vibrations bear the characteristics of the active passions. Passions are anger, ego, deceit and greed, and the activities being performed, and this is known as Leshya. So these vibrations which are taking place in the soul because of active passions and activities, these vibrations are known as Leshya. And these Leshyas are Bhav Leshya or psychical Leshya. They are in the soul. The Karman body experiences similar vibrations. So whatever vibrations are taking place in the soul, similar vibrations take place in the Karman body. And this is a rule. The resulting emissions from Karman body interact with the energy body and produce what we call as a Dravya Leshya or Leshya in the physical form. So the Leshyas, Bhav Leshyas are vibrations in the soul, and Dravya Leshya or the physical Leshyas are emissions coming out of the energy body because of vibrations in the Karman body. Leshyas are supposed to interact with the endocrine glands. This is the belief which has now come. It was not there in the Agam period, but today Acharyas think that these Leshyas interact with the endocrine glands and control secretion of hormones. The modern psychology also says that all our emotions are related with hormones. And when a particular kind of hormone is secreted, a particular emotions occur. So the modern psychology also connect emotions with hormone secretions. And here we are connecting Leshya with hormone secretions. And Leshya represents our psychology. Leshya has color typical of the vibrations. And our mental attitude or psychology is a reflection of Leshya. It is a function of color of Leshya. So the color of the Leshya decides our psychology. There are 6 kinds of Leshya: black, blue, grey, yellow, pink and white. The first 3 Leshyas, that is the black, blue and grey, are bad Leshya, signifying effect of patience, the anger, ego, deceit and greed. And the last 3 Leshya are good Leshya, signifying good thoughts. So they are connected with our thought psychology. Leshyas are illustrated by an example. Example is 6 travelers miss their way in the forest and come across a mango tree, and they want to eat mangoes. They are hungry, The first person wants to uproot the tree. He says, okay, I'll uproot the tree and eat the mango. The second one says, no, you don't have to do that. You simply cut the trunk and eat the mango. The third one said, no, you don't have to do that even. You just cut the branches and eat the mango. So the first one who wants to uproot the tree, he has a black Leshya. The second one who wants to cut the trunk has blue Leshya. And third one who wants to cut the branches, he has a grey Leshya. The fourth wants to cut only the twigs having fruits. He has a yellow Leshya. The fifth only wants to pluck the mangoes. He has pink Leshya. And the sixth wants to eat only those mangoes which are fallen on the ground. He has a white Leshya. This is a good example to illustrate what Leshyas are. In this example, the first 3 persons intend to cause great harm to the tree in different degrees for satisfying their wants. So they have bad Leshya. The last 3 persons want to have fruits without harming the tree. They have good Leshya. So the Leshya is indicative of our mental attitude or psychology of an individual. And now scholars have defined the psychology of persons with these 6 Leshyas. So the person with the black Leshya is wrathful, always hostile, wicked, violent, unmindful of the consequences of the injuring 6 kinds of living beings, devoid of piety and compassion, uncontrollable, unprincipled, lacking in common sense, unskillful, given to sensual pleasures, proud, deceitful, mischievous, lazy and mysterious. This represents the psychology of a person with black Leshya. Then a person with blue Leshya is extremely mysterious, he is extremely sleepy and deceitful, ignorant, rude, wicked, careless, intensely greedy towards worldly possessions and riches, engages in sinful undertakings, and easily irritable. The person with grey leishia is irritable by temperament, talks ill of others, boastful, troublesome, morose, frightful by nature, envious, insults others, crooked, vile, heretical, jealous, dishonest, distrustful, indifferent, vainglorious, unmindful of loss to others, desires to die on the battlefield, generous to flattery and indiscreet in his actions. The person with yellow leishia knows what to do and not to do, is dutiful, steady, knows what is fit or unfit for enjoyment, is free from anger, pride, deceit and greed, is self-controlled, impartial, is compassionate, charitable, calm and gentle. Then the gentle qualities characterize the person with the pink leishia. He is charitable, kind, benevolent, ever ready to do good to others, humble, steadfast, well disciplined, restrained, forbearing, devoted to saints and teachers, and strives after the highest good. And the person with white leishia is impartial, engages in meditation and truth, not desirous of enjoyment of any kind, practices samitis and guptis, which have already been discussed, subdues his senses, is calm, free from passion, and detached from worldly affairs. So these are the psychological traits of 6 kinds of leishias. And these leishias change according to time, and according to purity of mind and thought, So we can have different leishias at different times, Then we talk something about the Western concepts regarding mind. Psychoanalysis. So I quote here only Sigmund Freud, and I only giving his views on psychology. He is the creator of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. He believed that the psyche or mind was divided into 3 parts: id, ego and superego. So he divided mind into these 3 parts. Id comprises the unorganized part of our personality structure that contains the basic drives, and the id is unconscious by definition, and it is the storehouse of instinctual desires, needs and psychic actions. So the unconscious id is unconscious mind that way, and it contains these characteristics or attributes. Then ego comprises the organized part of our personality structure, which includes defensive, perceptual, intellectual, cognitive and executive functions. This is ego. Conscious awareness resides in the ego. So it is the ego mind, or this mind is conscious. Although not all the operations of ego are conscious. In Freud's theory, ego mediates among the id and superego, the third part, and the external world. Its task is to find a balance between primitive drives and reality, while satisfying the id and superego. So id has a certain functions in our life, superego has another function, and ego mediates between these two. Superego more or less connected with the morality and ethical issues, or morality and ethical functions. However, according to Freud, ego is the part of the mind which contains the consciousness. So he thinks that the consciousness is contained in the ego part of mind. Superego comprises the organized part of the personality structure, mainly but not entirely unconscious, and that includes the individual ego ideals, spiritual goals, psychic agency called conscience, that criticizes and prohibits his or her drives, fantasies, feelings and actions. So those actions which are aroused by id, are criticized by superego, because this concerns with the morality and ethics. So he criticizes those kinds of actions which are id generated. Superego tends to stand in opposition to the desires of id, as I just now told you, because of their conflicting objectives and its aggressiveness towards the ego. That means we have different kinds of personality structure. One personality gives a thought of doing something, the other prevents that kind, comes opposes that, no, this is not good, you should not do that, and say things like this. Superego acts as conscience, maintaining our sense of morality and prescription from taboos. So I told you this superego relates to morality and ethics. Superego is partly conscious and partly unconscious. So we do this kind of criticism partly consciously or sometimes unconsciously. This is Freud's view. Carl Jung divided the unconscious in two parts, the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. So the personal unconscious is a reservoir of material that was once conscious but has been forgotten or suppressed. So the personal conscious, it means the things of you are conscious of that now, or you are conscious in the past. Collective unconscious is the deepest level of the psyche, containing the accumulation of inherited experiences. Collective unconscious is also known as a reservoir of the experience of our species. So when Carl Jung talks of collective unconscious, he is in fact talking of a group, and they collect, then it is a collective consciousness or unconscious. So that group may consist of a group of species. So just human beings as a whole. Today there are still fundamental disagreements within psychology about the nature of the unconscious mind. So although Jung and Freud advocated for existence of unconscious mind, but still there are other psychologists who say there may not be unconscious kind of mind. They do not agree with this kind of concept. So I am not going to go other. You will find some more matter on Western psychology in my book, and also on Jain theory of mind. So I make a small comparison here. What is the Jain position regarding the concept of conscious, unconscious and subconscious mind? Well, Jainism also believe in this kind of structure of mind. It also believes that there is a conscious mind, what we call as a Chetan Man, or a subconscious mind called Avachetan Man, and unconscious mind called Achetan Man. The Jainis also believe, yes, we do have these three kinds of minds. conscious mind is the physical mind. So Dravyaman, which we talked of, is supposed to be the conscious mind. You can compare the physical mind to conscious mind. The subconscious mind is the memories stored in the psychical mind. So you see, all those memories, which are generated by cognition process, are being stored in the soul, in the psychical mind. And those memories we do not remember all the time. There are many memories stored in the psychical mind, and we do not remember them. We are not conscious of them every time. So there are many memories of which we are not conscious, and those memories could constitute the subconscious mind. So they sometimes pop up and influence our psychology, or they interact with the physical mind and influence our psychology. But they are not brought to its attention directly. So they are not, these memories which are there are not directly brought to the attention of the conscious mind or the physical mind. Then the unconscious mind could also be there. There could be some part of those memories which we cannot recollect. So for example, memories of the past lives, they are also there in the soul, in the psychical mind. But we do not remember those, or these memories are not brought to our attention. But they are there, unconscious mind, and they could also behave. They could affect our psychology. So Jain position is that yes, there could be these three kinds of minds which have been proposed by Freud, but the concept is different. Here we are connecting these minds to soul. That's a big difference in what Freud is talking and what Jain philosophy is saying. So today we have very briefly talked about what is mind, what is the physical mind and the psychical mind, how do they work, how do they function, what are the functions of mind. Then we also talked of the concepts of instincts, which is important in our life, and the concept of leisure, that also is important. And we briefly mentioned about the Western concept of mind. Thank you.